Opera SM here with another Return of the God Pharaoh deck tech. This is for node 3.1, Uncage the Menagerie. This one can catch people off guard and kill you very quickly if you're not ready for it, because the loyalty ability, while it costs 30 loyalty, will reinforce all your creatures 6 times, making anything you have on the board a huge threat that will kill you in short order. So it starts with 392 life, has +6 green mana gains, +4 to white and red, so it can cast stuff very quickly. In addition to that, it's got great conversion in Hour of Promise, the Green Desert, some other desert synergies that go in the deck as well, some great creatures that can grow pretty quickly. And while some of their creatures have Defender and Reach, in order to kill your creatures, its one real weakness of the deck is it doesn't have a way to damage or destroy or exile any of my creatures. So we use that knowledge from the PvE event, knowing our opponent's deck list, and we can exploit that by making us have a flying defender or reach creature, and then give it prevent damage with Dauntless Bodyguard, which costs 8 for a 3/2 human knight. When this creature is on the battlefield, your first other creature gains prevent damage. We're going to pair that with Drug Scroll Cavalry. It's one of the cheaper 6 toughness flying defender or reach creatures. You can use other options that are available in the game. Common ones that a lot of people may have from Origins are Dwynen and Sky Snare Spider. Those both have 6 toughness, so they could absolutely work here if you don't have this card. There's a lot of other options as well. I used to love using Parhelion 2 or Zatalpa, but with the change to Vigilance, I'm scared that if they have a giant creature stack, then it couldn't block, and then I would still just die. So basically, we'll use these 2 creatures. Another partial reason why I chose Drug Scroll Cavalry is, in addition to its efficient cost and power while having flying and defender, it has when a spirit you control enters the battlefield, gain 2 life. This is a spirit, so it gains 2 life when it comes in. It also has activate 2, summon a 1/1 white spirit token with flying. So this allows us to get a 3rd creature into our slot, and also gain some life, which is fine if we're losing a little bit of life to make sure before we get the lock set up. Having a 3rd creature is also great because we're using Huatli2 as our planeswalker. So with its ultimate of draw 2 cards for each creature you control, then gain 8 mana for each creature you control, it does allow us to get up to that draw 6 and gain 24 mana, which is awesome. The first ability lets us gain loyalty when we match white or green gems, so that helps us ramp into casting the ultimate quite a bit. But the second ability is really important in this deck too, because once you get the lock established, your opponent really can't deal much damage to you other than if they get multiple creatures with reach and defender out. Majestic Myriarch can be troublesome with that. So what we can do is we can save up loyalty to make sure we can activate the Strength and Unity second loyalty ability here. If target creature gains Trample, Berserker, and Prevent Damage, gets +X/+X, where X is the amount of creatures you control times 2, to put on our Dauntless Bodyguard if we need to protect it in the off chance that they are able to get multiple creatures out with Defender on one turn before those creatures could die. So with that in mind, basically we have these 2 creatures, and everything else in the deck are just tutors in order to find these creatures. We have Vivian, Nature's Vanguard, for 10, with the first loyalty ability of fetching first creature from your library. You can also pump your creatures once you have the lock established, but the first +1 ability is what we normally want. Nylea Keen-Eyed, I still continue loving in any creature-based combo deck for the second ability of, at the end of turn, fetch the first creature card from your library. Then each creature you control gains 2 mana, so every turn it fetches something gets you closer to casting it by giving it some mana. Theoretically, you could also get the Devotion with the Trample and buff gain. For 1 mana, Summoner's Pact will fetch your first creature, give it full mana so you can cast it. You will lose life equal to the sum of its power and toughness, but it's a great value at 1 mana to get half of your combo into play. Chord of Calling is great to fetch up one of the 2 creatures that we want with full mana. It can be cheaper to cast too, as we have more creatures on the board with the Convoke ability. Uncage the Menagerie for 10, lets us fetch up to 6 creatures from our library, depending on how many cards we exile from our hand to make room for it. So this can almost certainly find you both pieces of the combo if you need it. Shared summonings, while more expensive at 14, it fetches the next 2 different creatures from your library and they gain 6 mana. So this will guarantee getting both parts of the combo and a decent amount of mana towards casting them. While Deploy of the Gatewatch won't count towards casting 4 or more creatures with 6 toughness, 6 or greater toughness. The fetch 3 creatures in your library and place them on the battlefield is just great once we have the lock established and cast the requisite number of creatures. So we can just reinforce stuff and start winning a lot more quickly. Same Finale of Devastation will fetch up one of our 2 different pieces of the combo and get it into play, but it's not casting. It can also give all our creatures +8/+8 and haste if we completely get the stored mana filled up. But again, just basically those other 8 cards are devoted to getting this combo online as soon as possible. So let's go ahead and give this deck a whirl. Playing here, I'm hoping that these deck techs are helpful to folks as for this run of the event or for future runs, just as a reference of the sorts of things you can do. Reminder, like I talked about in my first video of this Return of the God Pharaoh series, it's really important in PvE events you have the knowledge of what all your opponent's decks are going to be, what their mana gains are, what their loyalty abilities are, and such. So you should really look at that and build to exploit that in your builds. You can make your matches a lot easier by that. So great, we have Drug Scroll Cavalry and Dauntless Bodyguard in our starting hand. So we should get this combo online very, very quickly. I want to make sure that my Drug Scroll Cavalry would not die before Dauntless Bodyguard comes in to protect it. So we may end up freezing them a little bit in order to make sure that we can make sure they can protect each other. So let's look at this board here. We can get red match and some loyalty matches. We can get a white match. We can get a pretty solid green match as well. Again, our opponent's mana gains are pretty crazy, +6 to green, +4 to white and red, and then +2 to blue and black. So you got to be careful not to give your opponent a great match at the beginning and start to cascade, because if they can drop creatures down quickly and get loyalty up fast, it can just kill you out of nowhere. So let's see. So we don't want to give him green, white, or red if possible, and that's what the most is on the board here. So let's look around a little bit more, see what we can find. We could get a red match into a green match, which is pretty solid here. I think that might be our best. I'm seeing if we can, there's that 4 red and 3 loyalty. If I do that, I don't think I can get the green match on top with how things are going to fall. Let's see. Yeah, because that's not, well, let's see. The green's going to fall to, sorry, that's my dog making some coffee noises. You all right, Fresco? All right. Let's see here. We can get white into green. That's actually pretty good as well. So maybe that's the direction that I want to go here, and then I theoretically could get a red match there as well. I should probably look at this longer, but I'm taking forever, so I'm just going to make a match here. And yeah, I gave my opponent a fantastic match, so hopefully that won't come to bite me in the butt here. But I do have basically the combo online now, so that is fantastic. And so I just need to get a green match out, and then we have liftoff. Great. And we also made a spirit token, so that's awesome. So we have a 6/6 flying 6/6 flying prevent damage creature. So that is pretty wonderful. We're going to use Corticaline to get another one of those out, and then Drug Skull Captain to make it even bigger here. We're at 4 loyalty now, and we need to get up to 16 to use the second loyalty ability if we need to. But we'll probably activate the first ability first so we can get extra bonus off, loyalty bonuses off of that. So let's see, I can get a green match, which is pretty solid there, and would let me fire off that last ability. I can also get some blue matches, some loyalty into blue matches, but I think I just want to take the green match now to get one more reinforced creature out. There we go, and if we can just start reinforcing these every turn and getting close to casting stuff, we should be in, well, we have the lock, so basically at this point we play not to lose. So again, we need to deal 20 or more damage to creatures during a single combat as well. So I want to make sure that I don't get too much pressure on the board because my opponent actually hasn't cast stuff yet. So just keep that in mind to make sure that I don't go too crazy overboard, winning too fast. So let's see, I can get a white match here. I can get some red matches, some blue and loyalty matches. I'm just going to take the white match here again. Sorry, I'm probably not making the best, most optimal matches here because I set my opponent up for a match 5 here. We'll see if Greg finds it. Come on, Greg, you can do it. No, you missed it, Greg. Come on, buddy. All right, great. So our opponent has a reach creature there. So that's great. We're going to deal him a pretty good chunk of damage here with that. So let's see, I can get a blue match and then some red matches and also make another flying token. Great. So 18 of the 20 damage is dealt to his creatures and 3 of the 4 creatures, so we just need to find more creatures, which we can easily do with Uncage the Menagerie. So I probably actually should have gotten this Nylea Keenite out because that is actually going to be what's going to get us creatures every turn in order to find the stuff we need, and it's also going to give it mana, so I think I actually like that better than Uncage the Menagerie, actually. So let's see, we can get a white match, maybe a black match on top as well, so I'm just going to take that. And again, it's kind of anticlimactic. It's basically this deck, well, it's not a guaranteed win if your opponent can cascade like crazy. Once you get the lock set up, it's almost impossible to lose. And if you're just playing to win, that is how you want to design decks a lot of times. If you know the opponent's deck and you can exploit that weakness, you can basically win the match before it's begun, as long as you don't let them go crazy super early before you get the lock established. Great. So they have their last creature down, so we've dealt the deal 20 or more damage to creatures, have that done, and now we just need one more of our Drug Skull Cavalries. So we're going to go ahead and use our first ability here, so when we make matches, I might have missed doing that earlier. Sorry, I'm playing a little bit late here, trying to get this finished before I go to bed so the charges don't overflow. Just go ahead and grab a red into a white. And again, I'm playing a little fast and loose here as we're doing this. I have the lock established. I should be spending more time probably if I'm playing the best to find better matches. But That's what I'm doing right now. So again, and you see any creature he has now basically is going to run into my giant 18/18 creature. And he's got 19 loyalties. So, but the problem is sometimes even if you thought you were okay and you had like a 20 power creature, but if it wasn't prevent damage, then your opponent could, reinforce their creature stack to 30, 40 more power, and then you're in a huge world of hurt. All right, so we're going to Court of Calling to get our last opposing creature, and do our hand. If we don't draw it, we have one more Drug Skull Cavalry. If we don't draw it, to get a cast, we keep drawing into Dauntless Bodyguards, but our opponent's still at 250 life, so we're in decent shape from that end about making sure that we are not going to kill him before that. So let's see, I can get a red match. I'll just do that for now. All right, almost there. And then once we have that done, then we can just go to town with stuff like our deploy the Gatewatch and then start piling on damage. Great, there's a Drug Skull Cavalry. So I'm actually going to just get rid of one of these Dauntless Bodyguards. I guess I don't have to because I'm going to be able to cast some of this stuff this turn and then still be able to just... That's what I love about Nylea. It just makes it so it's just super easy to cast all these other creatures you have, and they just build up in your hand and eventually get close to just casting as you fetch one every single turn. So we'll make sure in the future that we have enough cards out of our hand, so we'll draw into another card at the end of turns, sorry, my English is basically non-existent at this point. So yeah. So what we can do now, actually, we'll probably wait till next turn, but we can activate the ability to draw cards, give ourselves a bunch of mana, and then start charging all this stuff that we're drawing into, which is awesome. Let's see, we got a blue into a white I'm just going to take here. And again, like I mentioned, what we can do is just draw and charge a bunch of stuff to accelerate our winning. Wonderful. Another deploy the Gatewatch is awesome. So we're going to go ahead, we'll make another spirit token. We'll cast a creature, something that fetches a creature into play, something that fetches 3 creatures into play, and then that gets another creature into play and gives all our guys +8/+8. So this can just stack on the damage pretty quickly. But again, enough control so we can make sure that we deal our opponents 20 damage. So sometimes you just have to put on the brakes a little at the beginning if you get a super aggro start. All right, so our opponent does have creatures out, and they do have enough loyalty now where they could activate that ultimate, which, as you can see, that would reinforce their creatures, to a huge, almost 50 power for this run as a snake. So that's why it is important to make sure that you would win before that's happening. This is a little later win. I've gotten wins quite a bit earlier with this deck, but again, the archetype slowed down a teeny bit, but still, winning before my turn 15 is not too bad for over 400 life. So yeah, that is this build. I hope you enjoy this and that you found it helpful. Again, if you do not have all these fancy big tutors, there's a lot of pretty more accessible tutors you can still run as well. Incubate, Court of Calling, everyone should have as that prize event. Gather the Pack can work, Relentless Pursuit, things like that. So you can still have a decent amount of tutors, and then you can also, if you don't have enough tutors to fill all the slots, you can run disable stuff as well to do something similar to this. But yeah, that's the deck. We're just going to do one more, run up the scoreboard. Fresco, that sounds gross, dude. If you're all right, buddy. All right. As you can see, we get these stacks up pretty quickly, and they're pretty high. So yeah, that is the deck. So victory for 3.1. Again, hope this is helpful for you in the Return of the God Pharaoh event. Cool.